then, oh, there we go. So, welcome to the Brewster Public Library. Anyone that actually watches this on YouTube, you missed out my whole discussion about that camera and how we live stream and we're transparent and we're transparent administration in Putnam County history. I say it all the time, probably makes some people upset, but it's true. So, I want to thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to be here. I was sharing this with some folks earlier. When I was in the Assembly, but also as County Executive, I've always tried to meet people where they are, whether it's you're knocking on someone's door during election time, or you're just, throughout the term of your elected office, you're out in the community listening to people. So we've hosted town halls, we do things like coffee with the county executive at a local diner or small business, but I've also done things that we call trailblazing with Byrne. We meet at a trailhead or a local park, talk to constituents for about an hour, answer questions, and then try to promote some of the beautiful public assets that we have in Putnam County. We have awesome open spaces that are protected parkland. The Empire State Trail is a beautiful example. So we've done that every year. I've been county executive, at least one in every town within Putnam County. But we're adding to that this year, and testament to Dave Pascacello, my new chief of staff, who I snagged from State Senator Rob Rollison. We're doing Talking in the Library, because you're not supposed to talk in the library. So, talking in the library, and as you can see in this nice little sign to make sure you know where you are, open books, open government, because that's what this is all about. You should be able to ask questions of your elected representatives. Putnam County is a relatively small county. I don't think it should be any different. It's not Westchester. I know George Latimer, Rob Astorino, Mark Molinaro did similar things, maybe a little bit different, a little grander because they're bigger. But it's a small county, so there's no reason that I, as your county executive, can't do something similar. So that's why we're doing this in the summertime. When I was in the Assembly, we promote summer reading challenges, so it's kind of a spin-off on that. They also have a cool passport map, right? Do you know, right? So you can visit all the libraries in the Mid-Hudson library system. If you're so daring, I am going to visit every library system, every library within Putnam County and doing something similar. We were at Desmond Fish Library earlier today. I did Butterfield Library, Wing Memorial Library, Mahopac Library, or Mahopac Library, as the locals will tell me. I live in Mahopac now for over 10 years, but I went to Columbia High School, so I say Mahopac. Some of the real diehard natives say
After you finish visiting all the Putnam County libraries, you get a car magnet.
I do. So that's, yeah, very cool, get a stamp. But that's the basis for why I'm here. I do want to share a few things about what we've been able to accomplish over the last several years in Putnam County. Obviously, the transparency piece is an important part. I feel that we had to really bring Putnam County, you can't say the 21st century anymore, like we're already like almost into the 22nd, right? It's 2025, but we've really upgraded things. Our county website, the information, we have more information publicly available online than ever before. But also, I've always said I want to make Putnam County more affordable, accountable, and accessible. So affordability, obviously I talk about tax policy a lot. Accountability, that speaks to transparency. Accessibility, yes, that's transparency, but it's also physical accessibility to our county facilities. So we very much adopt Think Differently initiative from Mark Molinaro up in Dutchess County. The county passed a resolution in 2019, but I never felt really acted on it. So as executive, I take that to heart. We now have a handicap ramp in front of our county office building, where I meet, where my office is, where the legislature meets, and I thought it was quite frankly embarrassing that we never had a handicap ramp. If you wanted to go in that building, you were directed to go through the back entrance to the basement by the newer courthouse, buzz in, have an SPO, a sheriff's deputy upstairs, buzz you in, then go past the maintenance closet, hit an elevator to go upstairs. I don't think that's a very welcoming environment. So we now have a handicap ramp, and we have ADA improvements for bathrooms. If you're in a wheelchair or crutches, and you should be able to have access to your elected officials. It also means that I talked about live streaming earlier. For my public hearings, the legislature now live streams their meetings, which is very important. Because I believe if you're hearing impaired, you should be able to watch and listen your lawmakers at the county level, their meetings. And you should be able to watch and listen to me. And you should be able to turn on captions. And you should be able to do all those things in 2025. And now you can. So those things are really good. On the affordability side, because like most elected officials, we like to pride ourselves on our tax policy and what we're trying to do to make life a little bit more affordable. I've always heard politicians complain about the unfunded mandates that come from Albany and Washington, and they're right. As someone that was up there for 6 years in the state assembly, there's a lot of unfunded mandates, and it accounts for typically about 70% of your spending. However, I've always felt that it's a little bit disingenuous when you say that and you ignore the other 30%. 30% of $200 million, the county budget is $205 million. It's a lot of money. So there's always more things that we can do to prioritize spending and do better for taxpayers and make things more efficient and more effective and prioritize on those core functions of county government so we don't spend frivolously on things that, quite frankly, government shouldn't be spending money on. So what have we done as far as accomplishments on affordability? I took office, the mill rate, which is our tax rate, which is the tax levy per $1,000 assessed value, was $3.12 per 1,000, so 3.12. In my first budget, we drove that down to the lowest tax rate in 15 years, 2.87. The legislature dropped it down 2 cents, 2.85. So that's great, lowest in 15 years. Our second budget, we drove it down to 2.7, lowest tax rate in 18 years. There's a lot of factors. One is we didn't increase the tax levy. We actually drove the tax levy down. We cut taxes in the budget for the first time in 25 years. Hadn't been done in a very long time. We opted into a new sales tax for exemption to eliminate sales tax on clothing and footwear under $110. And why that's important, if anyone asks about sales tax policy, you might have been bored reading about it earlier this year. It was a big issue because if you're going to give tax relief on sales tax, I believe it's best to do it in a targeted way that's financially responsible, that gives relief to the people that are most harmed from sales tax. Sales tax is our largest revenue source as a tax for county government. We have property tax, sales tax, federal state aid, other fees. But sales tax is the biggest nut. The dirty secret about it is regressive, meaning that people on the lower income scales are disproportionately impacted more than anybody else. So how do you combat a regressive tax without putting yourself in financial stress? You do it in a targeted way. So the exemption we opted into zeroed out county sales tax on clothing and footwear under $110. And you might say, well, Kevin, where do we have, where's the Foot Locker in Putnam County? Like how many we have, we have Home Depot and we have Marshalls, but how many stores? Well, because of a Supreme Court decision with Wayfair that showed it is now constitutional to collect online sales tax across state lines, it actually is a huge impact because no matter where you live in Putnam County, if you're buying on Amazon or Wayfair or someone, you're paying sales tax. So for anybody who's trying to buy clothing and footwear under $110, you're not going to pay any sales tax. That completely zeroes it out. You need clothes, you need food to survive in this world, in society. So that's where it gets regressive. So that's meaningful relief. And it's something that the state of New York does too, and the MTA doesn't collect the tax because we make it whole. So that's real targeted relief. So that's something, those are some of the tax policy wins we had over the last couple of years that are big. And this most recent year, I'm a big boy and I'm open to compromise when things come up and we have challenges. When I first took office, my position and posture was almost identical to my predecessors. A lot of town leaders have been asking for sharing sales tax revenue sharing. Is everyone heard about that before, right? Sales tax revenue sharing?
Yes.
So my position has always been, well, we've had sales tax, the rate baked into the county budget for decades now. And we've had programming and services funded on this. I feel that, if I have the ability to give tax relief, I should just give tax relief. Why should I give it to another municipality and pray and hope that they'll give tax relief? That was my position. The legislature sought to cut the sales tax rate more arbitrarily, slash it to lower the rate. That's not targeted relief. That's a larger broad-based cut to sales tax, which then it's almost impossible to get it back up to the level if you want. Politically, it's very difficult to do, but also we're not at a point where the sales tax rate of 4% is competitive with almost all of our counties. I think over 56 counties in New York State have a local sales tax rate of 4%. So What it opened the door was, rather than cut it, I met with all of our supervisors, all of our village mayors, our state senators, assembly members of every party. Both parties were involved. And I said, look, if the legislature passes their cut by less than a 2/3 vote, and you want to meet with me, just know I'm willing to meet to see if we can come up with a better solution. They passed it with the bare minimum 5 votes. It was split almost down the middle. Jackie Nabi, kudos to her, Putnam Valley Town Supervisor, got everyone together. Wasn't sure if she was going to get it done. She did. And I said, look, if we can come up with a deal, a compromise that is unanimous with the stakeholders in the room, that will allow a revenue sharing mechanism, that will allow a greater portion to stay within the county than what the cut from the legislature was doing, I can be open to that. But my terms are this: it needs to be unanimous, because I don't want anyone coming in here playing politics, throwing stones at the other supervisors that are sticking their necks out. Also, it would require me to veto the sales tax change from the legislature. That's asking a lot of me. So it needs to be unanimous. And I said, no blank checks, meaning that we're not just going to throw money at something. It needs to be committed to some sort of infrastructure improvement or design. They agreed to those terms. You know, symbolically, more than anything else, there was 9 municipal leaders in the room. We said 1/9 of 1% adds up to almost $2.5 million to be shared by population. They all came on board with it. The county legislature had to fight over it for a while because I don't think they understood, quite frankly, that the state senators and some people can put whatever bill they wanted. So they put in this proposal, but it requires county legislature buy-in and support for them to pass it. Eventually they did. I called it a historic compromise because it is. And part of that compromise wasn't just supporting towns and village governments. Part of it was a commitment by major county executive to use the revenue that we retain in the county to give the largest property tax cut in county history, which I made clear was at least $1 million cut to the property tax levy. So if you want to know what the county property tax levy is, it's a little over $46 million. Putnam County never saw a property tax cut like that ever. Now, I can't control what the school taxes do, I can't control your town taxes or special district taxes, but Putnam County, even though we're 9% of your total tax bill, it's still something. And if I can give you tax relief in a meaningful way, I want to do it. Those are some of the big issues that we've been working on. We have a lot of exciting things on the Early Learning Center that if you have questions, I can talk about that. We have exciting progress that we're hoping in the town of Carmel with the stabilization center that we want to see come through. Thursday, I'll be celebrating, hopefully weather permitting, knock on wood, the grand opening of our fire and EMS training center named after Lieutenant Michael Nooner from the Brewster Volunteer Firefighter. That is a new state-of-the-art $1.3 million fire training center. That is not a mandated function of county government. It is an obligation that we take on willingly, that we have done for a very long time. We also provide ALS services, paramedic services countywide. Most counties don't do it. We're the first county in the state to do it back in the 90s. A training center is more typical of a county because every local agency doesn't have the ability to build their own training center. But some counties charge back to local agencies. We do not do that. It is a shared service. It was supported with $1 million of American Rescue Plan Act dollars from the federal government, as well as a $300,000 state grant from State Senator Peter Harper. So it's done. We got people from other states calling us about it who are interested, who want to visit it, so it's really exciting. And a lot of other things that we're working on. But I've talked for a lot. I have the projector up only in case you guys want to see the budget transparency website. 2 other things that we do is, when I talk about transparency, is that I ran on putting out a budget transparency website. We have a vendor called ClearGov, so you can dig through the budget without looking at budget codes that you don't understand in a spreadsheet. You can actually see where the money goes. You can see the mission statements, the flow charts, the org charts for various departments. We also standardized the annual reports that each department and outside agency, libraries are one of them, right? So the library system gets funding from the county. Our last budget was a little over $500,000. You get to see like the ROI, right? As a taxpayer, why is my money going to something like this? they are required to give an annual report to me that I presented to the legislature as part of my state of the county. No prior executive made it public. It was in a massive binder. It was all like hodgepodge. Each department did their own style. We standardized it. We put it in a PDF. It is online, so you can see it, whether they're outside agencies or their departments. So you can if you're a candidate or you're an official or you're just some random person that's like wants to know more about why you're spending so much money, you can see for it yourself, see the exact same stuff that I see. I also put on our county website. I'm the only elected officer in county government that I know of that does this, or in local government. I put my financial disclosure form online. So all elected officials are required, for the most part that I know of, to file a financial disclosure form with the Board of Ethics. I had to do this in the state when I was in the assembly, but the difference was the state required it published online. So my stuff has always been published online. If I owed a bookie $250,000 and he was going to blackmail me somehow, you would know about it. Or you could jam me up for lying on a form. So to me, I'm like, what's the big deal? We should just put it online. So if you see something wrong or you think there's a suspicious conflict of interest, you can challenge me on it. How are you supposed to know about a conflict of interest if you don't know about where I'm investing? You know, like you should know that. So I didn't put it out there as a law or a mandate on other officials. I just sometimes lead by example. So I did that. You can all look at it and dig back as far as 8 years at this point. Those are a few things that are on the county website that maybe we'll show if you're interested. But with that, I'll open up the questions. And how about a round of applause to our library for allowing us to do this? Because I should say, one of the libraries, huge partner filling gaps in services between the schools, the county, and we're grateful for them to also hubs of the community. So, but I'm happy to answer questions. There was some talk about utility companies earlier and other things. So.
Roads.
Yes, sir.
Route 6.
Route 6.
Going up to 52.
Yes.
East and west. What's with all them black patches? Look,
So,
you go over them.
as a former or recovering state lawmaker, that helped. I will say it's a state road. So the county can't put money into fixing a state road.
Well, you can put pressure on it to fix it.
Yes. So
Okay.
I've done that. So
Good.
As the state assemblyman that represent the area, it's crazy. Like they just do these. I don't believe they plan it out at the state level the way they should. Region 8, which we are part of, is
Paved it.
I know.
It was beautiful, and then they tore it up.
Well, so Region 8, I believe, has been drastically underfunded. We're part of it. So is Westchester, so is Rockland, Orange, Dutchess. And there's a lot of pressure on the state DOT and the state legislature, the governor's office, to fully fund Region 8, which we're part of it. When I was in the assembly, I was on transportation and rallied to make sure that Route 6 paving got moved up on the schedule, which they did, which was good. I also advocated for full reconstruction, which they didn't do. What they did, which they typically do, is they milled and filled it, which is helpful, but it doesn't fix some of the more legacy underlying foundational problems. So you get potholes. You have drainage issues that they tried to fix too, and then they do patchwork.
The potholes seem to be in one line.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
what I will say is our DPW, one of the things we also did was we centralized purchasing IT and central services and DGS. We also professionalized our highway facilities engineering divisions into a Department of Public Works. So our DPW, our Department of Public Works, when we have to do large scale projects at the county level, sometimes what we do is we box out projects. So I understand it would cost a tremendous amount to do miles of road for reconstruction. Right. But when you know there's 100 yards of a highly problematic area, like right by Spins, like that area, it's pretty much what you're talking about, right? Then you should box out that section and do more construction work there.
Yeah.
I know our assemblymen and senators have been strong advocates for infrastructure improvements. They both ask once every other year or so, basically for a list of, I'll say it's like Festivus. You ever watch Seinfeld? Festivus? Like, give me your list of grievances with the state DOT. And I give it to them. But I give it in writing. Well, what I also do, and I don't know of any other executive in this county or any other county that has done it, because I was on the Transportation Committee in the Assembly, because I was on Ways and Means in the State Assembly, I know a lot of those folks up there. And I know public pressure matters. So I'm the only county executive that actually drives up during the joint legislative budget hearings when they go over the state budget.
Right.
And I only get 3 minutes to talk. And then some friendly colleagues up there say, hey, Mr. Byrne, it's great to see you. Do you want to expand on that topic that you want to talk about? Which is great. So I get to talk a little bit more than some of those high-powered lobbyists that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go up there and advocate for whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go up there in person and advocate for state road improvements, CHIPS funding, CHIPS is a formula funding that the state gets per mile. Don't ask me what it stands for, I won't remember. It's Consolidated Local Street Highway Improvements, something like that. But it goes to town, village, and county governments to help us with our repavement programs. Because I've always said this, local roads matter, they're essential. No one cares if they're on a state road or a local road or a village road or a federal highway. You know, a school bus certainly doesn't care, an ambulance doesn't care, so a postal driver doesn't care. So we're all part of the same transportation system. So that's, the state of New York, I think, does generally recognize that. So that's why we get some of that state funding to support local improvements. And we obviously use local taxation, your sales tax and county taxes, to fix county roads. The biggest project right now in the county.
312
Well, 312 is
started yesterday.
well, yes, that's the state, right? 312 for the county. We've been wrapping up Peekskill Hollow Road over in Putt Valley, which was a nightmare I inherited. I started January 1st, 2023, and the prior contractor had walked off the job a month before I took office.
Wow.
So that was fun. We had to rebid everything. Now it's beautifully done. ELQ finished the job, but that was over a $10 million project. And you know, I'm sure you guys know this, the longer you wait with sky-high inflation, the cost of the project goes up. We did get a lot of federal reimbursement, but it became very complicated. And still part of it's in litigation. But the one that's going on right now that's huge, countywide, it's Fair Street. Fair Street's one of our largest county roads.
That's been going on, what, about over a year?
Well, it really started this year. I would say. They started doing some of the staging late last year, right? But really the more substantive infrastructure improvements for this year. And now you're seeing it a lot. And the reason why predominantly is school's out for summer, right?
Yep.
School's out, so they are going balls to the wall right in front of the common schools to get as much as they can because they know it's going to be disruptive when school comes back in session. Our county office building is there, the post office is there. But that's I'm trying to think, that's over $20 million. It's the biggest capital improvement that we've had, not indexed to inflation, but it's the biggest capital project that this county is likely ever had. Mm-hmm. But sorry, I do advocate, I do through writing for letters, but I've gone up to the state's budget hearing. To me, I can't do any more than that. Go up and advocate. And I will tell you, in the assembly, I represented the Taconic too, right? So Putnam, but also Westchester. I would complain about it. They've since done the improvements in Putnam County, but I would complain about it because it was like Putnam County was forgotten. They would do Dutchess County, and they would do Westchester County, and Putnam County is arguably the most dangerous, terrifying section of the Conic State Parkway. I kind of learned how to drive on it once I grew up in Putt Valley. Like, it's windy, it's got these crazy bends. You have a retaining wall that's a giant wall. You have a cliff on the other side. When I volunteered at Putnam Valley Ambulance, I remember taking a patient that was one of those help trucks that got hit. He was helping a disabled vehicle. He got hit because there's nowhere for him to jump because you're gonna jump off a cliff. Like it's very dangerous. They did those improvements, but when I would go up and talk about it in the assembly, I had state lawmakers from Queens and the Bronx would be saying, you know, you're right, Kevin, that's a death trap, it's awful. But why would they say that? It's because they would take the Taconic up to Albany. So sometimes the greasy wheel, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you gotta just keep that. But showing up is a big part. I'm talking too much. I gotta answer more questions. Yes, miss.
How do you find out if a road is county, state? On 312, you just said that that's a state road?
Yes. Well, typically, if it's got a number like that, Route 312, like the sign will tell you,
Uh-huh.
we do have a, let's see if this is working. So, ooh, it's not even show up like this, is like, it's show up my toys. So, DPW is one thing. Also, kind of harnessing my experience from the state legislature, state DOT would have a portal with all projects listed. So, one of the things we wanted to do is be more accessible and share information. I feel like that's just so much of it with large projects is about setting expectations. Oh, look at that guy, it's Tommy Fury. So fits. It's our DPW commission. If you go down here, he also was a sandhog for many years and worked in infrastructure. You go to projects. So county.my.gov, DPW projects. So projects portal lists. If there's delays, information, green light. You can click to get more information. But where is this here? Let me see. There is a list somewhere that I should find more easily. A list of county roads. So you can, there's a map. There we go. Boom. So current list of emergencies as okay, that's from our road closures. There we go. So you can see, sorry, this map isn't really cooperating, loading that well, but you can go on and take a look at some of the county roads in Putnam County. We have about 120 center-lane miles of county road, but when you add in other miles, stretches of road from state roads that we maintain, like during the snow season, we do a lot of the plowing for other state roads too. Like the DOT doesn't come in, we do like Route 301. But you can see the county roads on this website. But a lot of it you can just see, if it's a county road, you'll see a designation on it, has a number and the sign's different. And then the interstate's the interstate, that's federal funding. Other questions? I know there's, come on, there's other questions.
Your fire training center opening this Thursday?
Yes, Thursday, 5:30.
Where, what's the address?
So the fire training center, let me see if I have a picture of it. What we do. It's at the Putnam County Veterans Memorial Park. Right next to it is where our training center is, on Gypsy Trail Road in the town of Kent. It's a Commonwealth address, 10512. But it's Gypsy Trail Road, Putnam County Veterans Memorial Park. The lower lot is right next door to it. Yeah. So it's this new state-of-the-art drager system, which is really cool. I volunteered in the Kent Fire Department for a number of years, over 10 years. I was in the Indians Crampon Valley for a while. When I did Firefighter 1, they changed the standards now, like all these names and trainings. And our volunteers keep on getting asked to do more and more, not less. But when I did it, I had to go down to Valhalla because the tower that we would go up and down for training was closed. The Byrne building where they would do the live Byrne training was being almost constantly repaired with patch jobs. So we'd be throwing $50,000 here, $100,000 here. It was intermittently open and closed. So I could have easily done the lazy thing as an executive my first year and said, no, let's just throw another 200 grand at this and just keep the same thing going. But we had an opportunity to be bold. So we pumped in $1.3 million. We tore down most of that building, the tower, because it was closed for about a decade. I mean, I've been out of the fire service for over 10 years now, so this has been a long time. So, and this new drager system allows so many more capabilities for emergency services to train. It's really cool. And the good thing is, if we need to replace something, they can literally, it's compartmentalized. You can pull out a box and put a new box in. It's basically made up by these steel Conex boxes that are designed especially for fire training. But it's really cool. Awesome. And exciting stuff.
Yeah. So are most fire departments in our counties volunteer?
All of them.
All of them are volunteer. So how many fire departments are going to utilize the training center?
All of them. Sure. We have contracts with all of them.
Okay.
Well, we do what some other counties don't. It's not, I complain about mandates. It's not a mandate. It's an obligation that we willfully take on as we should. It's just too much for an agency to do it themselves, but we don't charge back. So like we could say, oh, you can do it, but you gotta pay a fee. We don't.
Sure.
So it is in our interest as a county to have strong first responders. And every level of government, whether you're a village, town, county, state, federal government, should be focused on public health and safety. So that to me is very much a local core function of government. It is, we don't charge back our neighboring counties, which is good. We have reciprocal arrangements. So like I told you, I went down to Valhalla for Westchester County's training facility, which was awesome, but they never charge Putnam County, which is awesome. And right now, we're finally able to reciprocate. They're doing work on theirs, and they're able to use our stuff, which is awesome. We're like a tiny little county, and we finally have Orange and Dutchess like utilizing our stuff for a change. It's kind of, it may have arguably felt one-sided before. It's really, I think we're changing that dynamic, so it's good stuff.
That's great, yeah.
So, and the ALS is big. It's a little more difficult of a topic here for Southeast because the Brewster Fire District has their own paramedics that they're adding, but the county, since the 1990s, has provided a county-wide ALS paramedic service. We're also not mandated to do that. We're the first county in the state to do it. I believe it's the right thing to do. It's a more efficient service. It is a more cost-effective service for taxpayers because it costs countywide about $3 million a year when we pay for 24/7, 365 readiness. But when they go on the call, they can bill your insurance or Medicaid, I believe. So they can do that, but we're covering the cost for that 365 coverage. I believe the Brewster Fire District is staffing up, so I think it's a little redundant, but they're allowed to do it if they want.
Yeah.
You're just kind of paying twice.
Yeah.
But we do it so we have fly cars and ambulances, and they can they can cover larger areas at once. You are in probably the most busiest district of any fire district in the county. Because you're definitely, because Brewster, you got 84, you got a pretty busy village, right? You are the second largest town in the county, but unlike a Carmel has multiple departments. You have the Carmel Fire Department, you have the Mahopac Fire Department, Mahopac Falls Fire Department, right? You got Brewster. Brewster covers it all. Yeah. So it is by far the busiest department. So there's arguably more needs for them too. So I get that. And I've been a beneficiary of the fire department. They cut me out of a car when I was in a bad car accident, over 10 years ago. So you got remarkable people here.
Now on the Brewster Fire Department, they're looking to build a new firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because they cover a lot of bad accidents in Connecticut, could they seek federal funds to help them build that house?
I'd say in government, I always say if you don't ask, you don't get. So you can ask. It's going to be
Just an idea I had after the article.
You can ask. So they have a fire district, I believe. So you have a board of fire commissioners. You have a local tax levy from the fire district. So it's not the county. It's not the town. I think the town might give them some funding too. I'm not sure about that. They could certainly solicit funds, whether it's congressionally directed spending, a nice polite way of saying earmarks or pork barrel spending, right. But whatever. Look, if the rest of the country is getting money from Congress, you should take it too. Like if I can get funding for the county, I'm going to take it too. The way I look at it, it's our money. If we can get it back to put it to good use, just know that I'm going to try to make sure it's used on something that's a core function of our government, not some pet project. It's going to be something that we need. So they can certainly ask. There are federal dollars generally available for fire departments to ask. It's competitive though, so it's not always easy to get. There's I used to work in Congress when I got out of college. I worked in EMS and then I worked for Nanny Hayworth in Congress. So there's two federal programs I'm familiar with. SAFER program, which they do a lot for recruitment and retention, and then there's the Assistance to Firefighters grant program, AFG grant program, and they have done things for capital improvements sometimes, so sometimes that can happen. But you gotta ask, and it is a lot of work. There's a lot of compliance issues with these grants. It's not easy, and if you get funding from the state, which sometimes you can get that, it's usually bonded money, which means they need to still front the money and finance the money. Our libraries know about that. If you get a big fancy DASNY grant from the state of New York, right? It's always bonded money, so you gotta put the money up, and then when the project's basically complete, you get reimbursed by the state of New York. DASNY, the Dormitory Authority of the state of New York, just state agency that I don't think knows anything about dorms. It's the money agency that gives grants.
Right.
Anyway.
Thank you.
So I'll ask you a personal question. How do you feel about the fire department and the village? And then also, a two-part, as the county executive, can you weigh in? Do you weigh in? Like, how much do you say when it comes to an individual town's fire department? I went there and it looks to me, and it sounds like we do need one. Right? It's not gonna last much longer, and then like you said, the cost of products is gonna go up, the cost of materials goes up, right? So at some point, it needs to happen.
So I am very much someone who tries to value limited government and appreciate values of federalism at a national level. So I try to apply that somewhat locally, whereas I believe that we have state governments that have responsibilities to make decisions, where it really should be Washington. But I also feel that same way that Albany should micromanage everything that the counties do.
Sure.
And I don't feel that the county should be micromanaging everything the locals do. So we need to work together where we can have strategic partnerships, but you have locally elected fire commissioners for a reason. So I have to defer to them, because otherwise I'd be like undermining their decision, and I don't live here. Like, I could, if you ask me for information that I could share, like just for like public information about like an issue, I'll try to answer it, but I try not to take positions on issues that are inherently local.
Sure.
Okay. What I will say is, I think the fire department does an exceptional job. Sometimes we have departments that very much like to operate on their own and kind of have like their own, like sometimes it's somewhat turf stuff, right? And they like to have control.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like I said, the county doesn't have like a mandate responsibility, but we are the agency. We are the government providing services to our 911 center, right? You call 911, no one's picking up the firehouse. Well, it's only public pick up the firehouse if you call them, but it's not, if you call 911 and you go to the firehouse, it's going to our 911 center.
Yeah.
So that's all fielded by county government.
Okay.
We just did this huge radio project outfitting local agencies throughout the county with new radios. And you may have read about some resistance because they wanted more or they wanted a different radio. Well, look, we've done more than our predecessor even committed to. We spent over $13 million on radios. We weren't going to be paying for installations. I convinced our team in the Bureau of Emergency Services to help assist with paying for installations. So it's, instead of 10 million, it's like 13 million. We still have to do towers in certain spots that are problem areas, like on the western side of the county. So we help the fire departments, and that's EMS, that's also police, that's also DPW and the highway departments benefit from interoperability. So we've done that with radios. We help fire departments with paramedic and EMS training.
Okay.
I think Brewster's kind of like really taking some of that on their own, which they're allowed to do.
It sounds like it.
So they're allowed to do that. If they feel like that's the right fit for them, they're allowed to do that. And ultimately, the people that make the decision are the people at the Brewster Fire District.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Someone's got to ask about libraries, right? So libraries, this is like asking my own question. So, this is a great example for me to bring it in my choice because it keeps on coming up. So, talked about the transparency website. How do I do that? The departments, who's that guy? Finance. We go to county budgets. So, this is a lot of all the information the legislature gets. But if you go to transparency website, you will see this is our transparency. It's powered by ClearGov, which is the vendor. You got the letter that this is the letter to the legislature with the budget requests. You can look at budget overviews. You can look at our capital plan. There's a 6-year capital plan that shows various capital needs from dams to infrastructure improvements to facilities to road improvements. It shows our funds, our tax rate, our tax policies. See if I go to departments. You see departments. You can see my office. Let's see. Let's look at the fund one. Department of Social Services, Mental Health and Youth Bureau. That doesn't need to look right, so they gotta fix that. Let's see here. Oh, it's also, so we fix that. Okay, so the budget expenditures for the health department, over $7 million. Big responsibility of county government. You can see year over year, fiscal year, 24, 25. Then the dark color is what we spent versus what was budgeted, so we went under budget. You can see they get a lot of federal funding and state funding for our health programs. There's mandated programs like early intervention, it's a big one. CPSE, which is special educational services for a pre-K special needs population. Very important service that we're thinking differently about, which is with that early learning center we're working on to put in Patterson. Big deal. Here's our fund. So you can take a look at all these different things, the changes in funding. Some of this is driven by what we get from the state and federal government. Okay, so that was just a little up. Here's outside agencies. Boom. So over $4.8 million for outside agencies. Libraries do not get $4.8 million. Sorry. They do get, I think, one of the large share. Well, it's over 10% of the pool. A big portion you'll see is legal aid. So these are outside agencies or some nonprofits, mainly municipal partners, right? But they're providing a service that would otherwise predominantly be provided by the government. So we are required to provide legal aid to those that can't afford it, right? So we do it through the legal aid societies. We do it with a contract. They get a large portion. Libraries, you can see, is that other nice portion there too. I just happen to know off the top of my head. Oh, I can actually look right here. If you want to look, hit the spreadsheet breakdown. Oh, look at that. And you can see over the course of the last several fiscal years, what did libraries get, Mr. Byrne? I didn't get this money. I think that's quite all cooperative. It's the budget code sheet is there. Let me see here. Libraries. So in 2000, and what is this? We started at 22. They got from the county $462,000, $462,198. And they've had incremental increases over the years. For 2025, which in my budget, the executive retentive budget introduced to the legislature, I kept the number flat at $487,942, which was the same number for the 2024 budget. The legislature then added to it to grant the full ask of the libraries, which was $505,000. Now that money doesn't just go directly to the libraries. I'm sure some of them would like that. It goes to the Mid-Hudson library system that then distributes it to the local libraries. It's the same way how it works when the state gets funding through bullet aid, right? It's the same thing. It all goes to the library system. So those go to lots of great things. We also get one of the other outside agencies that we support is Cornell Cooperative Extension. So they provide very important programming that we would otherwise be responsible for. Agricultural services they provide, educational services they provide. They have been rent-free in one of our county buildings for a very long time. They had no lease. That was one thing I did when I took office. I was like, look, anyone that's having a gratis operation, even if they're providing great services, we got to have a lease to protect them and to protect the county. So they have a lease, and they also have a lease for their new site that they'll be moving in once it's built. It's the Foster Farm. But they get about, I think it's over $300,000. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if this one works. Okay, I think it's under the county. I think it's under the county. It's under the one. Fishing game, it's not fishing game, it's the Federation of Sportsmen. They get funding to help stock some of our public lakes. They stock walleye and ground trout.
Ground trout,
Rainbow trout. So that's pretty cool. One of the things that I saw as an opportunity was for tourism. There's an economic development piece with tourism. We try to promote the history that we have. We live in one of the most historical areas in the country as one of the founding states in the 13 colonies. we include Constitution Island, which was key to the history of the Great Chain that was critical in the American Revolution, which you'll probably read about more with the anniversary next year. But we talk about tourism also with public spaces, and we're a destination for hiking, but also for fishing. So New York has a program, like we have I Heart New York for tourism. They do I Fish New York with New York State DEC with free fishing days. So Putnam County, we're rolling out a program called I Fish Putnam. So, now, like again, plagiarism is the best form of flattery. I think it tends to work for New York. And we got all these amazing spots for fishing. We don't have a lot of, I wish we had a Dick's or a Bass Pro Shop in Putnam. That would be awesome. But we don't, so maybe one day we will. But I think we got great opportunities in the reservoirs and public spaces. So they get, the Federation gets some funding for stocking fish. So you are encouraged to take a look at this beautiful website. You're also encouraged to look at, you go to this one, the county executive one. Oh, look, there's top right. You can look at my disclosure forms from, this. Probably doesn't like this doing this, but whatever, too bad. So you can see, there's Byrne. She works at Einstein Hospital in the Bronx. You can see some of the volunteer board members in line. This is all the stuff that, it's not earth-shattering stuff. I got a mortgage, and I have some graduate loans I'm still paying off. And I don't see this as like a big to do. Scroll down
I have
here.
a question about the Early Learning Center before you go.
Sure.
Is that going to be for the whole county, all
Yes.
of the children?
So it's an opportunity for everybody, but there's only so much space, right?
So is there going to be a lottery as there was in Brewster, or how is that going to work?
It's different. So the county already provides what's called CPSE and early intervention services, right? I'm probably oversimplifying this, but the early intervention program is basically like the 1 and 2 year olds, and I believe 3 and 4 pre-K is CPSE with the county, which is the county program. So this is for that CPSE program. Right now, the county contracts with service providers to provide that educational service for the special needs pre-K population. We have a couple providers in the county, but not a lot. So there are some of these special needs pre-K children that are sitting on a bus or transportation for over an hour to get services that they need. In some cases, they're going down to Austin, and from Patterson, it's a long way. So what this does is the opportunity for the ELC, this was talked about for a long time, but no one ever did it because I don't think they thought it was financially viable to just create a whole new centralized facility for this population, which isn't all that large, but very important, right? We want to take care of our most vulnerable. What changed is the advent of universal pre-K programming, and to your point, the school districts opting into UPK because they want more providers, right? They want places to put their UPK program in. So because of that, it allowed us to venture into what is referred to as a braided model of funding. So we have the county programming for CPSE, and we have the funding for UPK from the school districts to both house a program under an early learning center, which has both typical and atypical children. It then becomes financially viable where because we're no longer transporting these children so long distances, it actually creates a savings for the county. But it also, more importantly, creates a better educational experience for these children, and it centralizes it in Putnam County. Now, the challenge is, some people have said, I think legislators, well, they should all be special needs children. What about all those? Look, they're not all special needs children in this program are going an hour-long ride. It's not all of them. Green Chimneys is one of our providers, for example. That's in Putnam County. But there's also models, if you're going to do from the state, guidelines that we really ought to follow, where you have ratios with typical and atypical children. So I rely heavily on my health department, who are subject matter experts in early intervention and the CPSE program to follow those guidance. So based on the buy-in and desire to participate in that program, first of all, we want it filled, right? If it's filled, that's maximum savings, maximum effectiveness. That's awesome. then we can talk about expanding. So it is the first time we're doing anything like this in the area. So I think we start here, and if we can expand it out more, and there's more opportunities, sure, we can do that then. But also, right now, the parents do have a say. Like, they get to pick too. Like, for UPK, for school districts, like I went through this, my son just turned 5 in May. We didn't do the UPK because he was already in nursery school, and I have a job that puts me out at all hours of the day and night. My wife's does shift work 12 hours with an hour-long commute to the Bronx. So aftercare is very important to us. And for me to pull him from his nursery school to maybe go into a lottery to another one for a new program with uncertainty over that, we didn't do it. Mayapack just rolled it out recently. But parents do get to pick. Like, so that's one of the issues is, you know, are we going to get the desire from parents to support and participate? I think the answer is yes, because I personally went to the Carmel Central School District. I went to, I think, 2 pre-K like educational forums for parents. And I just kind of talked about the Early Learning Center with Valerie Kurtz, who's in our health department. And the feedback was very popular. Brewster School District is the other big district that is a stakeholder that has expressed an interest in this. So if they want other UPK students to be there, they need to put us on their list. We have a lease that's been passed by the legislature that I've signed, which was a huge hurdle. I think some legislators wanted to try to leverage a different site or that site. Look, the reality is I can't enter into agreements with school districts or providers until I have a lease. Like, it's, you need to, like, you can't move forward with a program. We did forums with legislators in February. I talked about it in the State of the County in March. The health department did a comprehensive presentation in April to the county legislature. There were there's tours for the legislature, 2 of them scheduled in May. And then we went before them to try to get that lease done. So once we have more proof of concept, I think this is something that is going to be very effective, and then I feel like it's something that can be modeled by other counties across the state that are more similarly, you know, situated in scale and size to Putnam. I think it works because we're a small county. I think in Westchester, they don't have a problem with providers. They're massive. They have over 1 million people. But for us, I think it works. And we're not doing this because the federal government or the state government said, Putnam County, you need to do this. What's beautiful about this is something that we have worked collaboratively with our health department and the administrations of the school district. So this is a shared service, like, working because you got local stakeholders talking to each other. Talk about property taxes, 70% of your property tax bill is your school taxes. I can't do anything about it, but like, I'd like to be able to say, I'm doing more to work with your school district to provide tax relief, whether it's your county's property taxes or your schools. So I do think it's going to be very effective and popular. And while I don't want anyone to be turned away, that is almost a good problem to have because it means everyone's using it, and it will give us a really strong justification to expand it. That's a long answer. Like, I feel like that would be good because there was concern that it wouldn't happen.
So the people in the county are going to be paying for this?
Well, it's the same funding that we already use for the CPSE program, which is largely state funding that we use for the program. So we use the existing funding that we get for CPSE right now, that we are paying agencies outside of the county and are transporting students to outside of the county because we're doing the special needs population, right? We're doing that right now. So we're using that same funding, but we're not paying those long transportation costs. So we already know it's going to be an immediate savings. And over the life of the lease, which is a 10-year lease, over $1 million in savings. Just by factoring in, we're using the same level of funding. We're only going to have one public employee to oversee it that we're creating. But the transportation costs are very significant. So we're in a good place where I think I'm very confident it's going to save taxpayer money. We're not looking at an increase in spending. It's rare that someone can say that to you with a straight face, which is why I'm so excited about it. I get to say that we're improving a service, we're cutting down on these long transportation times, and I'm saving you money. It almost sounds like it's too good to be true, but it's in black and white. So, I'm sorry, you're gonna interrupt all I want, because I'm talking too much. So that's what happens, these politicians talk forever. Here we go. What was I gonna show you? Oh, so this is the executive page. Scroll down to budget, you see the budget address. But here's important, we're gonna state the county. We'll just do 25. This is where you get to see everything a county legislator sees. It was live streamed, but you can see the video if you really want to see me speak for another hour. I don't think you want to. I was at Ace Endico, quickly becoming our largest private sector employer in Putnam County and call Southeast home. Very, very happy to have Ace Endico in Putnam County. They're doing great. But underneath here, this is important. You got the 2025 annual reports, county departments, and then 2025 reports for outside agencies. To me, that's your ROI as a taxpayer. That's your return on investment. I want to know as a taxpayer, where the heck is all this money going? Well, for the county budget, $205 million your county budget, it's a lot of money. You can look at your county departments, and this is what I'm required by the charter to give to the legislature. For years, the executive would just have departments do like whatever their presentation was, no uniform format. And it was a binder, some of them would put like magazine clippings in, and it was subjective to whatever department would put in. We gave them a standard for information that we want, performance measures, if you will, like you would in your private sector or in any other nonprofit agency. And we put in a uniform format, put on a PDF, and we also put online. So you have it for our departments, but also for the outside agencies, so you can see the deliverables where your taxpayer money is going. So you can look at this, I think it's clickable. Let's take a look. So you can see my executive summary is basically mine. And it's basically it's like a 3-page version of the state of the county. Let's take a look at, I can go to Department of Public Works, page 105. Let's try that. Let's see if this is going to work the way I want. Oh, I put it wrong. Two and three. There we go. Public Works. There's a commissioner theory. You can see department description, mission statement, services provided, population served, basic things that you would want in any sort of performance evaluation of any large organization. Notable achievements for 2024, goals for 2025. We talk about miles of roads paved. It also highlights all the various divisions that you have in some of these large departments. So this used to be like highway and facilities, but then quite frankly, we have a golf course, right? People are like, why is the highway department working on a county golf course? It looks silly. Well, it's because the county golf course, whether you like it or not, it's technically a park. It's preserved space from development, and the Parks Division runs it. So DPW, when they go there to work on something, we use DPW. But we have a Parks Division, an Engineering Division, a Facilities Division. This is all from DPW. It talks about the various, this is funding accomplishments, Peaks Hollow Road accomplishments, Fair Street reconstruction, FEMA funding. We closed out. It takes years of tracking and compliance. When we have a disaster, we actually get public assistance from the federal government. Sometimes we don't get it for years, and you don't close it out for a couple of years later. We closed out one of the July 2023 storms. We weren't as impacted over here, but over in Putt Valley and in Cold Spring, they were really slammed. We had rain just completely wash out roads, rip up culverts. I think it was over $10 million of public infrastructure funding that needed to be repaired. Let's see here. So that's, won't bore you with all this stuff. So you can go to the sheriff's office, IT. Let's look at this outside agencies. The other one. You go here, you can look at this one, outside agencies. This is what I want to see. What did the libraries do? Let's see what your libraries do for you, right? Putnam County Library Association, page 63. Boom! Okay. Ooh, they're nice. They made it clickable too. They listen to instructions. Thank you. The more interactive, the more user-friendly we can make these, I think the better. So services provided, all the great things, the gaps and services that libraries provide. I think the great thing about libraries is whether you're, some of the youngest people, whether you're pre-K or in the school system, sometimes there's a gap in service that our libraries help fill, but also they help some of our elderly and our seniors. So they're always doing interesting things. I live in Mayapack now, and it's also like just a bit of an outlet. Like when I can just quite frankly, I shouldn't take credit for this. My wife takes my son to do some of the program that they had, and it's just nice to get him out of the house. You have to pay. Anywhere else to get some of these services, you have to pay. So it's something that's available to so many good people. It's awesome stuff. They also partner with great programs. So these are library visits. These are cumulative. So for like all the libraries, it's not just Brewster. Right? Their revenue sources. So whether it's local taxation, grant funding, they can see where the county contribution, where that goes. Another thing that I like, a lot of our libraries do it. I don't know, do you have the Cornell freezer here? No.
Yes.
You do?
Right there.
Right there. So before you leave, check this out over there. If you want your free meal, it's really for folks that really, really need it. I wouldn't ask you to take it unless you really need it. But this is a program that exists in part because of county funding that goes to Cornell. Cornell provides, if they're quasi-governmental, and in addition to all the different training they provide, they provide this really cool service where they distribute these meals throughout the community, and they're in every town in the county. They partner with our friendship centers, our senior centers, but also with a lot of our libraries, where people can just come in whenever the building's open, right? It's not like 24/7, but they're able to get a meal, which is really cool and helps fight food insecurity. Let me see if I can, come on. We didn't, here we go, Putnam County Economic Development, that's all I want. It's page 11, I'm just gonna go page 11. Ooh, this is not good. There's some people that create it. That's career support solutions, they get funding. They help people with different disabilities. There we go, Cornell. So they did like a memo, but that's Cornell Cooperatives. Provided 8,792 volunteer community service hours in Putnam County. Reached 19,000 plus Putnam residents with person-to-person programming. Delivered 11,148 free meals through the CCE Bountiful Meals Freezers. So that's how many people have been touched by some of those meals. Purchased 219,000 pounds of locally grown produce from farmers in the region to support farm-to-truck programming. But you get to see all this on your own. So and the beauty of this is, you can criticize me, but also I view it as if there's something that we can do better. How else am I supposed to find out about it? Let me know, and if I agree with you, we'll try to implement it. So one of the reasons why I do so many of these outreach events. Other questions?
How does a new organization or an organization not receiving aid be considered for getting something?
Sure.
I'm with the Town of Southeast Cultural Arts Coalition. We've been around for 15 years doing multi-arts. We're pretty much run by an all-volunteer group. And over the past 15 years have provided hundreds of events for artists and audiences. And we've been doing what we can to restore the Southeast Old Town Hall, which is still in limbo.
Yep.
Have you been over there lately?
I went there not that lately, less than 6 months ago.
After this, I'd love to take you through where we are at the moment.
I am at the whims of whatever Dane tells me I have to leave to. But what else? Your question is very similar to a question I got this morning. It's not an uncommon one when I was at Desmond Fish Library. Well, see, we don't have a grant program for local nonprofits. The only method we have to support other agencies, whether they're a nonprofit or they're a municipal partner, in most cases like libraries, sometimes it's quasi-municipal depending on the library. It's through the budget process, which is inherently a political process. Now, my first budget, what I did was, as an alternative to my predecessor's Share the Growth program, which was with sales tax, and I disagreed with fundamental issues because I don't want to share owners' growth because I feel like that sets us up for an issue for a potential shortfall for other reasons. But as an alternative, I introduced a grant program for both municipalities and outside agencies, nonprofits with community assistance. It was modest. It was about $250,000 each, and it cost a lot less than the $7 million sales tax plan that had been previously proposed, which would not have gone to agencies. But the legislature cut it in favor of a property tax levy reduction, a tax levy reduction that I embraced, supported, and celebrated. At the same time, I said, look, if you guys don't want to do the grant program, I like a grant program generally because I think it's cleaner, it's fair, it's more objective than the political process in a budget. You ever talk to elected officials, most should tell you, you want to talk about priorities, show me your budget. But it's their priorities, right? So I would rather say, look, these are the issues that we want to focus on. Like, how about we make facility improvements across the county to make things more ADA accessible, right? So if nonprofits or public spaces want to do curb cuts or handicap ramps, like we could channel it in to better the whole community, but so it could be objectively scored. And to the best of our ability, because you can't do it entirely, get some of the politics out of it. When it's in a budget, it needs to pass a body in the legislature. It needs to get passed by a county executive. That could be me or somebody else. So unfortunately, inherently, it just has a tendency of becoming political. So we don't have that grant program. All we have is the outside agency funding mechanism within the budget. The way that works is our finance department has already reached out to those that have traditionally been funded because they have a contract with the county for providing a specific service that would otherwise be provided by the county. So that's how we try to prioritize it. It's supposed to be. There's legacy funding that's just always been there too. Southeast Museum gets funding. They get, I think, $30,000 a year.
36.
36. So
70 from,
okay.
or 40 from the town.
So, okay, so they get some from the town. So what I have done too is directed our finance department to send the materials that are needed to the legislature. So if they have something that they believe in their district is eligible for a similar type of service, they can advocate for it. So long as they complete the application, it's a request for funding, it's not a grant, right? So it's a little bit different. You actually then have to go to the law department or county attorney, have to create a contract to sign. It's a lot different than you would get a more traditional grant. That's the only method that we have. But it is supposed to be for a contract for a service. So for the arts, the county does contract with the Putnam Arts Council, which does a series of re-grants to other members of the arts community. So that is traditionally what the county has been able to do. It's not a whole lot of money. It got somewhat controversial with the legislature this past year. I can understand why some people were maybe, surprised, but I actually don't, because the legislature votes on every re-grant before it gets dispersed. So the Arts Council, when they do re-grants, they do their scoring system, kind of like I said with the grant. I just think we could do it in-house too. But they do their scoring. They can't cut a check. It still comes from the county. So they then go to the legislature with a detailed review. This is what we decided. The legislature passes a resolution at the request of the Arts Council. It doesn't even come from me. Then, whatever they pass, I have the need to act on it for it to take effect. I either sign it, approve it, I veto it, or I can do nothing and be a little wimpy guy and let it go in effect without my signature. I tend not to do that unless I think there's a potential conflict. So I authorize it. And thank you.
Thank you.
You don't need to wait for one of these things to grab my ear either. You can call our office. You can message us. We try to be active on social media, but really that only accounts for maybe like 30% of what we do. There's a lot of other things people don't see, but thank you for coming out on your afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
check out those meals.